This conference will now be recorded.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is Andrew Cole with East Orlando Chamber of Commerce. We're here today doing another webinar and have the pleasure to have Kristen Davis with us with CORE, which is Children of Restaurant Employees. And we want to thank everybody for jumping on this call with the East Orlando Chamber of Commerce. As we normally do, we like to recognize those that support the chamber, and the folks that we have with those are our trustees, and like to rattle those off real quick as we go through. But we have Avalon Park Group, Avalon Insurance Services, Advent Health, Duke Energy. We have Fairwinds Credit Union, Orlando Health, the Orlando Law Group, Florida, Great Florida Insurance Company, and also Suburban Land Reserve. So with those, we thank them for all that they do to support the chamber and want to make sure we give them due recognition as sponsors and as trustees of the chamber. So I have Kristen here, who's with CORE, and as most of you know, I don't really like to do bios, but I do know that she's been in the food and beverage industry for over 15 years, and she started when she was 15 years old, I should say. And then kind of, I guess, as you know how it goes, it gets in your blood. I also come from that background. I think we were talking a little bit about that a little bit earlier, and we can go into more of that later. But with that, but now she's taken her passion of the food piece to give back to those from her serving, giving back and serving those that serve, I guess is a good way to put it. So absolutely. Without further ado, Kristen, I don't want to take the limelight from you. Tell us about CORE, tell us about you, tell us about what we've got going and how this can help, because as you know, Orlando is a huge hospitality and service industry, and how your organization can help our folks and how they can get engaged with that, because we're looking for resources for anywhere anybody can turn. So without further ado, Kristen, welcome to the East Orlando Chamber, and thank you for being here.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's a real pleasure. And as you said, you guys do have such a huge volume of food and beverage service workers in your area. So I think this is a really important thing to let your community know about. So thank you so much for having me and allowing me the time to tell you guys a little bit about us. So first, I'll tell you a little bit about me. My name is Kristen Davis, and I am the program director for CORE. And I originally came into the program about 3 years ago as a program coordinator. Originally, as was already mentioned, I have been in the restaurant business since I was 15. I think the day I turned 15, I was a Sonic car hop, and then moving into all different avenues, hosting, serving, bartending, management, you name it, I did it in the restaurant business. So I was working in the industry as a bartender. My husband was working as a chef at the time. In 2013, we decided to start a family, and so both being in the industry, we dove right in. We decided to start a family, and at 20 weeks of our pregnancy, we found out that the little girl that we had on the way had a major congenital heart defect. So that same day, we learned that heart defect kind of tipped them off that there might be a few other things going on. And long story short, about 24 hours later, it was confirmed that our little girl had Down syndrome, and also this congenital heart defect and a few other medical concerns. We had a very difficult pregnancy, and which led me to being on bed rest fairly early on, overnight, losing income as a bartender, overnight not being able to work is a difficult thing, as many of us know, bartenders and restaurant workers, you rely on those tips, and generally in the restaurant business, it doesn't come with the same benefits as other industries have. So that was a huge hit to us financially, that overnight, earlier than expected, we did lose that extra income. So that was a difficult time, but she was born early. She was 3 pounds, 14 ounces. She was doing pretty well, but did go into immediate heart failure as expected due to her heart condition. So we spent about 6 weeks in the NICU while the doctors and nurses worked really hard to control those heart failure symptoms. And then at 3 months old, after being home for a few weeks, we did have to go ahead and proceed with her open heart surgery. She was under 10 pounds, and so she was an itty bitty thing, but went through her heart surgery just fine. And it was a very successful surgery. So we were really happy about that, and we were starting to get on to life is normal and try and just move on. And now we just have to raise this little girl. But then while she was healing, we went to a regular pediatrician appointment, a checkup when she was 6 months old, where another long story short, within a few days, she was diagnosed with leukemia, a form of blood cancer. So as you can imagine, during all of this time, working for me was difficult. My husband carried our insurance, so as a chef for a large corporation. So he continued to work full time while my shifts kind of started dwindling more and more and more, in order to take care of our daughter's medical needs. So we learned about her cancer diagnosis about 6 months before we actually had to start chemotherapy. We caught the cancer extremely early, which allowed us that time for her to grow and continue getting stronger and bigger and ready for chemotherapy. So we, right at a year old, she started a 6-round series, which took about 8 months of living in our local children's hospital here in Nashville, Tennessee, where we live. And so we spent the entire time basically in the hospital. We would be in for about 3 or 4 weeks at a time, go home for 7 days, rest, recover, and check back in for another round of chemotherapy. So all in all, before her second birthday, she had spent several hundred nights in the hospital between her NICU stay, her open heart surgery, chemotherapy, and had hundreds of blood draws and about a dozen bone marrow biopsies. And it was definitely a tumultuous time in our lives. So during her second round of chemotherapy is when I found CORE, or I guess I should say rather CORE found me. So through a connection, another friend who knew the executive director at the time connected us, and the rest is history there. So CORE helped us by providing a lot of things that we could not provide for our family at that time. Now, Claire is our only daughter, and so we didn't have other children, but because of everything and because of my inability to work as many shifts as we needed, CORE was able to come in and help us financially. We happened to have our grant sometime around the Christmas time. So CORE provided Claire with an iPad, which is still used to this day. And that was really beneficial. With Claire having Down syndrome, there's a lot of applications that we use on a daily basis to help with her development and her growth and help teach her skills. That was also during chemotherapy. It was extremely important. It was a great tool to have because as we it was a really, really, really great tool to have because as she would get sicker and sicker and have rough days, then it was a great tool for her to have to be able to, no matter how sick she was, she could still play on her iPad and she could still play her games there. So it was a really good thing. They also covered a lot of our utility bills to free up some cash for us. So CORE was really, really helpful during that time. CORE also provided her clothes that we could not provide at the time and a few Christmas gifts. All in all, we say often the CORE really saved us in the worst time of our lives where, our main focus needed to be on caring for our daughter. And unfortunately, that meant that I was working 1 shift a week at most, 1 to 2 shifts at most. So obviously, financially, that was extremely hard for us. So fast forward a few months, Claire finished her chemotherapy, and I am proud to say she is now I don't know if you can see on these pictures here, that one of her in the red dress is a current picture. So she's 6 years old and healthy. I always like to make sure to put that in. I forget often to let people know that she is good and healthy, and we're really proud of that. So after she became healthy and we were done with chemotherapy and out of the hospital, I started volunteering for CORE because the office was here in Nashville, my hometown. We are a national nonprofit organization, but the office happened to be here in my hometown. So I started volunteering some hours once I was able to, and then eventually, I often say, I weaseled my way onto the staff, which is kind of a dream. I had been previously always seeking a role in the nonprofit sector, and had been going to school for social work and different things. So this was a perfect fit with my history and background and being a family in the restaurant industry that has been affected. So I'll move on here. So what is CORE? So as I mentioned, we are a national 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we support in all 50 states and in Puerto Rico. We were founded in 2004 by a group of national account beverage executives who were out one night after the National Restaurant Association convention. They were, having some cocktails late at night, and somebody was hitting somebody up for some cash for their charity of choice. And it sparked a conversation of like, hey, why isn't there a national charity, something that our big brands can donate to that's really helping the backbone of this industry, which are these vulnerable workers, the servers, the bartenders, the chefs, the dishwashers, the ones that are truly breaking their backs in order to keep this whole industry floating. Without the people selling the product, these national account guys wouldn't have their jobs. These brands wouldn't be thriving without the people out there selling the product every single day. So at like 2 o'clock in the morning on a bunch of beverage napkins, CORE was born with a big impromptu brainstorming session. So that was created in 2004. It was first manned the first few years by our board of directors, but then was finally staffed in 2011, which really took the organization to a whole new level. So the majority of the families that we have served have been since that 2011, 2012 mark. I'll put you in perspective of how much we have grown. In 2014 is when my family received our grant. We were at the end of the year in 2014, and we're the last family served that year, as we were a December family, and we were number 25 that year. Right now, I have about 200 applications in queue that have come in the last month. So if that tells you anything about where our growth has been and how vast that is, it's been really exponential. So here. So what we do, so qualifying events to receive CORE assistance, which CORE assistance typically comes in the form, I'll go over kind of those things in just a minute, but the people that qualify for a CORE grant are restaurant workers. They have to work in food and beverage service industry, and there typically needs to be one of these few things here that is going on within the family. So our qualifying events include, but are definitely not limited to, a major diagnosed medical condition. So that could be a cancer or a major surgery that somebody has to go through, something like that, a heart condition, all kinds of different things, of a child or a parent in the family. An injury or accident for the child or parent. Death of an immediate family member, then that's a child or a parent living within the home. Domestic abuse of a child or parent. Or natural disaster. We do have a natural disaster program, disaster relief, where if there's fires, I know in Florida, We've helped with several of the hurricanes that have come through and caused damage to industry workers' homes, their businesses overnight losing their jobs because their job was wiped out. So we help in those kinds of things. Recently, Nashville, our hometown, experienced some tornadoes that ripped through a very restaurant heavy area in our town. So that was something that kind of hit right in our backyard. And as I've mentioned, we've been in Florida for several of the hurricanes that have done damage to your state. So that's a little bit of what qualifies a core grant. And we'll get into a little bit more about COVID here in just a minute. But so the people that we help, basically, if you touch food and beverage service, you count. We leave this open to your bartenders, your servers, your hosts, chefs, line cooks, your prep cooks, your food truck employees. We also include cafeteria and school nutrition workers. It could be banquets, catering, managers, coffee baristas, dishwashers, quick service employees. So your Wendy's, your Taco Bell, any of those quick service things, all the way up to fine dining, anything in between. So if you touch food and beverage service, that would qualify as a position. So as long as you have one of these positions and work in the food, or I'm sorry, and have one of the previously mentioned issues going on within your home, the qualifying criteria, then that would allow you to qualify for core support. So I think I do want to go into a little bit of what we're doing regarding COVID-19. So with that being such a gigantic issue for the restaurant industry at this time, what we've chosen to do is kind of stay very much in our lane of who we help, how we help, and what qualifies. So what we've done is, because the amount of inquiries that come into our program every hour regarding COVID-19 and restaurant closures and people that are displaced, loss of wages due to the virus just affecting their job, we've really had to narrow it down to where we are assisting those who have a positive diagnosis, that are working in the restaurant industry and have a positive diagnosis of COVID-19, or that have someone living in their home that has been diagnosed with COVID-19. Now, I will say that the national exposure of our program, given this circumstance right now, we've had a huge influx and exposure of what we do in our program. So that means currently we do have a lot of people finding out about us that didn't know about us before. So what we are doing is we have a ton of people that are reaching out to us because they've lost work or wages, not realizing that they actually qualify for our program already, because they have one of these underlying conditions that's now exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic and their loss of work. So they have a child with a disability, a spouse with a disability. They themselves had just recently gone through some major medical crisis and had just gotten back to work, and are now forced to not work because of COVID-19. People that have immunosuppressed people living in their home that have to take extra precautions during this time of protecting themselves and their family members from getting this virus. Excuse me. So we are finding a huge influx of people that are reaching out to us needing assistance, that are luckily able to find that with us. So we're honoring those applications as well right now. So that's kind of where we are in COVID-19. And like I said, we are starting to get more and more restaurant workers who have had an official diagnosis that are receiving help. So these are some of the different things that we do when we say that we support restaurant families. for the most part, these are what things we pay for. So we pay for mortgages and rents for families. Our biggest concerns are always going to be keeping a roof over their head, food in their stomachs, and clothes on their back. So we want to make sure that those basic life necessities are taken care of. The majority of our families are having housing issues, and rents and mortgages are our number one thing that our families are concerned about. How am I going to pay for this? So that's the number one thing that we pay for. After that, a lot of our families are food insecure. So providing grocery gift cards and things like that are a very important thing that we pay for. We'll also pay for utilities and transportation costs. Your gas bill, your electric bill, water bill, all those things to keep your household running during a critical time in your life. Transportation costs, we'll save a lot of families from having car repossessions and all that, because if they don't have their vehicle, they can't get to work. Or it becomes an extremely exorbitant cost to be able to utilize transportation, and not all of our family being across the country, not all of our families always have access to public transportation and those things. So that can be a really important cost that we cover for a lot of our families. We also love to take care of children's needs, so directly buying diapers, formula, paying for childcare expenses, things like that, because when a family can't afford their childcare, they can't go to work to pay for everything else. So during these difficult times that the family is experiencing, we find that is some of the biggest needs is taking care of their children and whatever that is they need, the diapers and the formula and everything. So it's not limited to these things, but that's typically the avenue of what we're doing. Right now, due to COVID-19 and the extreme volume that's coming in, we have added a couple of team members to our team, and that are helping us field all the inquiries and all of that. And then, so that being said, we have had to kind of narrow it down so where we're paying rents, mortgages, and then also providing Visa gift cards that can be used to do your utilities, your food service, or purchase groceries, all that. So that's where we are. So how can you help? So first, I'd love to tell you guys a little bit about our ambassador program. This is a great way to be involved with CORE. It involves a training session, and basically you become an extension of the CORE office. You learn about the nitty gritty. You go over a lot of the stuff that I've just been through. So you're kind of getting a mini training here. But basically the CORE Ambassador Program, with us being a small office and being located in Nashville, Tennessee, but reaching all 50 states with providing grants and receiving funds in all 50 states, we basically use our ambassador program to help spread the word. Our ambassadors spread awareness, they create fundraisers, they share our stories on social media, they just talk about us and let people know that we exist. They refer families all the time. So our ambassador program is really one of the best ways that people can help in becoming a trained ambassador to know all things CORE. Share about us on our social medias. Follow us on our social media pages. We're on all of them, so you can find us CORE Gives, Children of Restaurant Employees. That's the easiest way to find us. So that's one of the best ways you can help, is just sharing about us, letting people know that we exist. And then creating your own fundraiser. That's always something that we would appreciate. We have a lot of smaller locally owned businesses that will host little fundraisers for us, up to very large fundraisers. So we appreciate every dollar that comes in. And then of course, referring any family that you think might qualify for our program. So the application process is pretty easy. Basically, in order to refer a family or to apply for yourself, you would go to our website, which is coregives.org, and you would go there. There's an apply tab, and then there's also a refer a family tab. So you can refer another family if you that refer a family application requires a little bit less information than the other one, just because we know that if you're referring a family, you may not have all of the information needed, that we'll go back and ask a family once we get in touch with them. And you can remain anonymous, or you can have that transparent. It's up to you. And all of those questions are asked in our application. So yeah, so those are the best ways to get in touch with us, is by going to our website at coregives.org. Does anybody have any questions about our program?
Kristen, if anybody wants to put it into the chat area or unmute Mike, and we can do that for questions. I'll start with one here for Kristen. It's about how many families do you guys help throughout a year? I mean, is there?
Okay. So that is changing dramatically right now with COVID. With that, so I will say our last couple of years have been about 150 families each year. That's been kind of the trend. That is going to probably triple this year, if not more. This year, I'll be surprised if we don't at minimum triple that number this year.
Now,
based on the amount of funding that has come in and need that's out there, that and the awareness that COVID-19 has brought to our program.
I'm sure. What
that's about 1,000 children, I think, or children. I think to date we've done about 1,000 families with about 1,800 children out of those families that have been served by our program.
How about donations and things like that? How can people get involved with doing donations, whether monetarily or sponsorships, if there's specific chains or maybe small local chains? And
absolutely. So the best thing to do, if it was just a personal donation, would be to go to our website at coregives.org. Or the checks can be mailed to our office, which I think I have that on my next slide here. Yes. So our mailing address is here, that 2550 Meridian Boulevard. So personal checks can be mailed there and deposited, or we also happily accept donations on our website, again, coregives.org. And then regarding any sponsorships or any other ideas that anybody might have, reaching out to me directly at Kristen at coregives.org, or even our info at coregives.org, which is on our website. Any of those avenues, emailing us would be the best way to start that conversation of and how we can support you in supporting us. You know, we want to try and help make it as easy as possible for you, provide you with all the information that you need to be successful in your fundraising effort.
So is there any succession plans, if I can ask, whether or not there's going to be local chapters down the road that maybe can help locally for
we hope
areas?
We hope that's always that's in our goals of, you know, down the road, and we're hoping to expand to where we do have chapters in each state that are really regionally covering their own area, and then leading from, you know, a main office. But right now we are a small team, and we're doing that on our own. But that's where the ambassador program really comes into play right now, and hoping to turn that into more local regional chapters. We do try and connect our ambassadors to each other when we have a large amount in one area. Orlando actually happens to be an area that we do have a large amount of ambassadors. So there'd be plenty of people to connect and maybe work together and create some sort of fundraising effort together. And we're working on trying to connect all of those ambassadors that are in those regionally specific areas that are a little bit heavy with ambassadors that want to get together. You know, we hear it all the time. They want to work together, and they want to create their own kind of fundraising efforts.
Yeah, because local strength is always a benefit, and then have the large benefactors from around. But there are a lot of local, small regional chains of restaurants that can sometimes help put things together. And I know a lot of some of the larger corporation ones sometimes have their own pieces, but there's additional that can help. So that's
Right.
always a plus
And I think
with
that's an
that.
important thing to note is that there are a lot of these larger chains that do have internal programs that help their employees in times of need. And that doesn't prevent us from being able to help families as well. So even if somebody does qualify for an internal program within there, I know there are different KFC has their internal program, Cracker Barrel Cares. There's a lot of internal programs around for larger chains, but just because a family receives help from that doesn't make them ineligible to receive support from us.
Nice.
And then we do focus on the families that do have children. So there does have to be a child in the home. So, you know, some programs focus more on the individual worker, but we can really do more with having the whole family as our focus.
So I've heard something about a hand washing challenge.
Yes, yes.
Can you tell us a
So,
little bit about it? And is this a
yes,
revenue enhancer or a fundraiser for you all?
yeah, so we currently have a campaign going on our social media pages. It's our hand washing campaign. We've had a couple of celebrities that have jumped on the bandwagon and posted their videos. So basically the gist is we're all supposed to be washing our hands for 20 seconds. So you get on and post on your social media and wash your hands, sing a song for 20 seconds. You can do a little parody, make up your own lyrics. You can sing a song that you're comfortable with. You can sing happy birthday, get your kids involved, whatever you want. And basically it's just to raise awareness about our program, raise funds, go to our encourage people to go to our website, make a donation, and spread awareness about what we do. So if you go to our social media pages, it has all the verbiage on there of what you need to hashtag, and it's wash COVID away, hashtag wash COVID away, and hashtag core gives. If you use those on your social media posts, we would greatly appreciate it. I know we had a Backstreet Boy, Howie from the Backstreet Boys did his, Joe Piscopo,
Okay.
Saturday Night Live fame, and a few others. Some celebrity chefs are getting on the bandwagon and posting their videos, so it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun to watch.
Really cool. So are there anything that you know of right now? I know you said you had ambassador programs, but with that, do you list the ambassador programs and how to get involved with that on the website also? So if there's any of our
Yes.
smaller restaurants and folks that want to be a part or at least be able to, because the industry and folks, for those that don't know me, I do come from a hospitality and restaurant background. So it becomes a very small knit group and very tight knit between each other, even though that you're can be vicious competitors in different things, but at the same time, you're all doing the same thing, and
Right.
you kind of, everybody gets together around the same cause, and really, it's a great community, and it's great to hear this part. So how can we get in touch or find out who the ambassadors are here in Central Florida?
Yeah. So, like you said, the hospitality industry in general is just such a family and such a community. Anybody that's ever worked in a restaurant can vouch for that family aspect of once you're working these long shift hours next to each other and through the super slow days and the super busy times and you really do become a family with your coworkers when you work in the hospitality industry. It's just in our nature. It's just what we do. It's just like you said, it becomes a part of you and part of your identity. So we do have these amazing ambassadors, and like I said, in Orlando, we're very heavy with that. So my biggest thing I would say is to go to our website, coregives.org, and there is all the information to apply for our ambassador program. Basically, that whole process is filling out the application, and then we will reach back out, schedule a training session for you to go through your training, and then you're fully armed. We'll send you a welcome kit that has a few things in it, some business cards for you to hand out if you're at the restaurant. You meet a server, your bartender, and then you start talking to them and you find out something. We hear this all the time that people are ambassadors and other people that know a lot about us basically they'll just be having dinner and they're talking to their server, and then they find out, oh wait, you need to apply for this program, we can help you. So that's one of the biggest things that our ambassadors are really, really helpful for, is referring families and being, and talking. A lot of our ambassadors are brand reps and distribution reps, and they'll be in the store, so they really have contact one-on-one with these locations and are able to find out. And once they start talking about us to the restaurants that they work with every single day, that's when the restaurants start reaching back out to them, or how people come to us because they heard about us through them. So that's one of the biggest. It's our ambassador program is absolutely one of the most valuable tools that we utilize. So I really encourage, if anybody is interested, to please go online and check that out.
So are there any other questions from the gallery out there that we can answer for anybody regarding CORE or getting information? Do you have kits or packets that if a restaurant owner wanted to have something posted on their bulletin board in the back or anything like that, can they request information to have for their restaurant? So like if they're a smaller owned independent operator, that they can have that information at their fingertips?
Absolutely, and all of those things are on our website as well, with printable formats available to download right on our website. And the biggest thing that I would recommend there is our back of the house poster. So this is a poster that can be just displayed in the kitchen or wherever the servers gather, wherever your employees gather. And it's in Spanish and English. And it gives directions immediately for how families can get in touch with us without having to go through their employer. So a lot we find sometimes, maybe an employee isn't quite ready to share what obstacle they're going through, what their family situation is with their employer quite yet, but they are in need, and they may not want to share with their employer that they're in that much need. So this provides them with all the tools that they need in order to reach us directly in the event that they do need our help. So the back of the house poster is really a valuable tool to let your employees know that we exist and how to get in touch with us in the most comfortable way that they can do, which is directly to us.
So donations are an important part for what you need.
Absolutely.
Word of mouth, not that you're needing it right now, but word of mouth to the employees and to the restaurants that there is assistance available. The ambassador program, just to kind of recap, are things that if anybody wanted to take action to with what you have right now, any of those can do, and do a hand wash challenge for you all.
Yes.
Online, or if I take those for takeaways. Anything else that we can add that I'm missing on what our members or what we can do on that? And then I did have a question pop up for being an ambassador. Do you have to be in the business to be an ambassador?
Absolutely not.
Field, or can it be outside the organization?
Oh no, we're happy to have anybody that just supports us and wants to share the word about us is more than welcome to become an ambassador. We will take any and all from different walks of life, and we all, I think the industry is also something that everybody touches it. We all go out to eat, we all get takeout, we all, the majority of people at some point in their life have worked in the restaurant business, or at least need to. We always say, people in the industry will say that everybody should at some point. But we'll accept help from anybody that is a believer in what we're doing and feels any kind of passion for it. So no, you do not have to be in the food and beverage industry to become an ambassador. We love getting support from all avenues, different industries.
Wonderful. Do you work in or align with any other organizations to assist or for advocacy on your part?
Absolutely. So we do have kind of a small informal group of maybe a chamber, if you will, of other groups around the country that are doing a lot of those internal groups, like from the larger chains, like I mentioned, Cracker Barrel Cares and the KFC Foundation and different things like that. We have kind of a group, so we're sharing best practices. There's a group out of California and Washington called the Big Table, and we all do a little bit different, have a different focus, but helping this industry. So we're working on that. There's a few local things. Georgia has a program called the Giving Kitchen that helps industry workers, and so we work kind of hand in hand with them. So a lot of smaller ones. We are kind of unique in that we're the only national that's helping families in the industry, and so we're kind of our own little unicorn in the business. But everybody, like I said, everybody, all of these different organizations or internal programs have their own specifications and qualifications and criteria. So we really are working together, and we'll send each other, if we have a family in need that would qualify for their program, we make it a point to work together, not against each other.
Is there a cap limit to what you provide for somebody that gets assistance, or is there a waiting list? I mean, I know right now it's different because of the need, but
we typically are, right now our grants are averaging around $2,500 per family. So and that fluctuates sometimes just with our funding and need. We keep it kind of fluid so that our goal is to never turn away families for lack of funds. So if we see funding is going down a little bit, then we'll lower the grant amounts a little bit, but we do try and stay at a really impactful range where, at least that $1,500 mark, where we're making an actual impact, where we can actually cover a full month of mortgage or, more. So we really like to keep it more at that $2,500 range where we can not only cover mortgage, but other bills as well, and really take a good chunk of that financial burden away. So to date, we have never turned away a family for lack of funds. We hope to continue doing that. Our cap, technically we don't, 10,000 would be our cap, but that is very, very rarely are we able to do those really large grants. And typically they do fall under that $3,000 range.
I have a question that came in, and I'm not quite sure how to read it. I'll read it off, but okay. Is there anything for individuals working in restaurants that would offer support that you would be aware of? I'm not sure how to.
Can you repeat that again?
Is there anything for individuals working in restaurants that would offer support?
Not families?
I don't know if we can get clarification.
I'll answer it like that. So right now, it depends on where the person is located. If they're an individual and don't have a child of their own, for our purposes, they're the one of the guardian or parents or guardians of a child have to. That's one of our main criteria, is that there has to be a child or a dependent living in the home with the restaurant worker. And then the qualifying event has to be happening within the home with either the child or the restaurant worker or their spouse or significant other. So someone living in that immediate family, the outlying family members and all that would not qualify for our criteria.
So I got some clarification. Okay. Not a family per se, but let's say it's a single mom that's raising a child and may be living at home or with their parents or the grandparents of the child. Not a family, but a single mom trying to raise this with the help of the community or her family, however that would be, but not a family unit per se.
Right. So in that event where a single mom, does live with other family members or something, we could still help them, but the qualifying circumstance would have to be between either that mom that is working in the food and beverage service industry and the child. Now, if the grandparents are the ones that are working in the industry, they would have to have some sort of guardianship over the child in order to qualify for our program.
Right. Yeah, basically one of the parents of the child should be working in the
Mhm.
industry, or the legal guardian
Correct.
of the child would need to be in that. And is there an age limit on
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 the children?
on the children?
So typically, children would have to be under 18 or still in high
Okay.
school. They still have to
Yeah,
be they have to be a dependent. Now we will make exceptions for children over 18 if they are medically dependent on their parents. So medical dependence would mean that there was some sort of major physical or intellectual disability that that made it so that the parents are really caregiving and have that guardian role well into adulthood.
yeah. Okay. And another question came in: are there any resources that you know of for individuals or couples that are in the industry that don't have children that can reach out for support? Let's say they have an issue, or
Okay.
through COVID-19 or the whole nine yards. Are there any things that you have besides our unemployment and pieces that you know of where you
Right.
guide other people in the industry?
So there are a few that are doing some things right now. I know the U.S. Bartenders Guild is assisting bartenders with micro grants that are, I think, about $500. There's a few other state ones that are running. I'd have to look into Florida specifically. I can't remember. There's a few that are mentioned on our website, I believe, that I can't. They're not coming to my head right now. There's a few right now that have kind of started a program. They had an influx of funding that is really, they're doing these small micro grants. I think the max is like $500 or something like that
Okay. Yeah,
for
just
individuals that don't have children. And
yeah,
that information is on our website, I believe, right now.
or somebody that might get injured or doesn't have insurance. A lot of
Mhm.
uh, unfortunately, servers and staff, they live paycheck to paycheck, or
Shift to
on things
shift.
with that, or from tip to tip,
Yeah.
as to put it. And if they run into a hardship or something of that too, there's a need. So just trying to be able to guide things as a chamber to our members and to our restaurants that are members and things to help them with pointing people in the right direction. So if any of that's listed there, we can access that, and from there. All right, any other questions from the gallery here while we've got anybody? Going from there. I don't see anybody typing anything just yet, but Kristen, we do appreciate you being here today and taking some time out of your busy day. I know there's a lot going on with
Well,
what
thank you
you have
so
to do, and do that remotely.
much. Yes.
So,
Husband's working
and
upstairs. I'm downstairs, like we're all.
you got it. Well, we had a couple thank yous. Thank you, Scott. We had Scott
Thank you.
Roberts here that jumped on. Thank you for being here and participating. I hope you got some good information of what we have today. The East Orlando Chamber does try to provide information for all different industry sectors and pieces. And Kristen, once again, a great organization. I mean, it's dear to my heart with the hospitality side that I come from. So I really do appreciate what you are doing in helping
Thank you.
our servers and the folks in the restaurant and food and beverage industry. This is really incredible. As every little bit of that helps. It's got my mind going on a lot of ideas here to see what's here in Central Florida that we might be able to partner with or help out with. So
Awesome.
we do appreciate everything that you've had and spending some time with us. If you need information about CORE, go to coregives.org. Kristen, I'm sure she'll reply to you
Yes,
if she has
absolutely.
something with that. And if you have no other parting shots or questions or anything else, Diego, thank you. Good to see you. Keep strong out there, buddy. We really appreciate you taking some time, Kristen, and
Thank you.
doing this
Thank you for
virtually.
having me. We
And
really appreciate the
we,
chance to let you know about us.
we'd love to be able to help, and I think there's a good need. So as you see the pieces that are here, please feel reach out here to the East Orlando Chamber, as we have a plethora of people in food and beverage here in Central Florida. So, and I'm sure there's a lot of need that is great that people just have not even realized that a little bit from an organization or a lot of it from somebody can really make an impact in their lives. So we thank you so much for the service you're doing and spending time with us this morning. So without further ado, thank you all for being here today, and we've got more coming. So just keep a bridge to us. Watch our website, watch the calendars, look for the newsletters. There's a lot of information we're flowing out there to help your businesses during this time, and of course, here's opportunities during other times that your businesses may need. So we thank you very much. You all have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you so much.